this week's Parsha, we have the events of the tragedy of Nota Avihu, and they're bringing a Eish Zorah, a korban of Ketores that was not required, not asked of them, but there's various positions in Chazal as to why, what their motivation was and what the breach was, and of course the subsequent meting out of the justice in the divine justice in terms of Midas Hadin. And Midas Hadin requires that there are situations where the tzaddik must be taken to task for even a breach that was well motivated. Anyone, if he's doing something well motivated, if it incurs a transgression, but even more so the tzaddik, because that makes it clear to the world, to history, that the Rebbeinu Shalom deals with Midas Hadin, and we cannot deny that sense of justice, stringent law in the divine courtroom, in the cosmic scheme of things. So Nota Avihu, according to different positions in Chazal, there were different laws that they transgressed by doing that, but their motivation was a motivation of supreme spiritual ecstasy, that they overstepped the bounds, Kavayochel. But Aaron's response, Vayidom Aaron. Aaron is still, he's quiet. Now, there is a Chazal that indicates that he was moaning, not complaining, moaning, expressing his grief, the emotional expression of grief, until Moshe Rabbeinu said to him that there's a Kiddush Hashem, that the Rebbeinu Shalom had in fact told us in advance that there was going to be that Midas Hadin, that the Rebbeinu Shalom told Moshe Rabbeinu that he's going to be Bikrovai a Kadesh, right? That I will, those who are close to me, there's going to be a Kiddush Hashem. And what is the Kiddush Hashem? That in the divine courtroom, that there's no such thing as denying. Tshuva sometimes is available to in certain situations for the here and now. In certain situations, tshuva is going to count for Elam Habo, for the future. Aaron, as it were, the Rishonim explain that he took solace in the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu told him that there's a Kiddush Hashem that comes out of this, and that Nota Avihu are the people that have a special status in that they're experiencing the divine justice brings a Kiddush Hashem to the world and to history, and is instructive for Klal Yisrael. But Yidom Aaron, he's still. But that term is an interesting term that we find in a number of places. We find dom used possibly it's the original source etymologically of the word dumb, which is speechless. But we find that, for example, Shemesh v'givon dom, that there's a Rashi says that by Yoshua, when the sun was stopped its cycle, that the day was extended, that there's a certain kind of shear that the sun sings in its performance, as it moves through the sky, and it's the earth moving in relation to it, but as it appears to us, but as we experience it visually, empirically, that the sun stopped in its motion. The Rashi says in the Gemara in Vedizora, Chafhei, that the sun sings a song. There's a shir that a poem, a song that the sun recites, sings in its cycle. We do find that Chazal teach us that there are others. Also, the Gemara continues. There are others over there in that Gemara in the Vedizora. There are others that also stop the sun. Is that the Moshe Rabbeinu also stopped the sun, and that's one of the explanations that Moshe Rabbeinu Oz Yoshia, that Moshe Rabbeinu was mashlim, he compensated for the shear that the sun sings in its rotation, in its movement, again, as it appears to us. And that's called the shira. While it's in motion, that is its shira. Its function is its shira. And similarly, Yoshua will compensate, will sing a shir to compensate. There'll be a shir of Yoshua that he will sing and recite, because there's a certain shira missing in the world from Vayidom, that the Shemesh v'givon dom, and Moshe Rabbeinu's keeping also the sun in the Milchama with Sichon. So Shira is connected with the performance of something that it was designated to fulfill. Its function, its expediting of its God-given employment of what it is supposed to, that is its shira, that is its song, and it recites a song simultaneously, and betzem hein hadvorim. The actual functioning is the shir, but it seems that there's some kind of shir that goes with it, alongside, parallel with it, that accompanies with it. We have another interesting case of that, when the Oren is stolen by the Plishtim. It's in Shmuel Aleph Vav. And then finally the Plishtim, they suffer tremendous retribution because of holding the Oren from Klal Yisrael. There's a plague, and there's death, and there's suffering, all kinds of levels of retribution. They want to give it back, and then it's held in a field, And when it's now being given back, the Pasuk teaches us that V'yosharno haporos, the oxen that were pulling the wagon with the Oren Kodesh. V'yosharno haporos baderech al derech beis shemesh b'mesila achas. They went very straight, even though it was a stony road. They somehow, and they knew which way to go. There was something miraculous in the way V'yosharno, the direction. They had a built-in ways, these poros, to get them to go not in the counterintuitively, we would say, in the direction that they would normally go back to where they came from, but they went across a stony path and somehow navigated the path miraculously to get by Yoshana, Yoshau. But there's also the Gemara says that there was they sang a shir. There was a shir that these poros, they're doing what the divine bidding requires of them, was a kind of shir, was a song, because that is what it was designed for. When something fulfills its divinely dedicated mission, there's a kind of shir, there's a kind of song in that. By Aaron Arkoyan, there's we have in the continuity of the Parsha that Aaron takes umbrage. He critiques the remaining sons of Aaron for somehow not fulfilling. There were 3 korbanos. There was the seer of Rosh Chodesh, there was the seer of the Meluim, and there was the seer of Chatas of Nafshon. And there's a differentiation that's made over here. Aaron critiques that one was eaten, the seir that was just of the Meluim for the Tzav Hashor, and the others were burnt. And there are different descriptions of what the possibilities were, of what was the infraction that brought to the necessity for them being burnt. But one understanding in the positions discussed in Chazal is that Moshe Rabbeinu questions, challenges them. Why did you differentiate? And Aaron describes that there's a difference because he was an Oinen. Nota had now been died on Kiddush Hashem. And as a result, as their father, he is in a state of aninus, which is that till the kvura, he's now not allowed to eat from koche deiros. And Aaron explains that there was a mincha that he was required that was also only for the sha'ah. So Aaron HaKohen explains and answers to Moshe Rabbeinu that there's a differentiation between that which is a chidush, that the Rebbeinu Shalom was mechadish, that innovated specially for this unique situation, which is a one-time innovation, a chidush. That will not be the din v'deirus, and the din v'deirus does not allow him to eat for aninus. So he differentiated between the two, and Moshe Rabbeinu accepts the teretz. Now, this din of aninus, in and of itself, is also requires understanding, because during an oval, somebody who's in a state of mourning has a requirement to try and organize, engineer as many mitzvahs as possible to do for the schus, for the merit of the departed. And the day of Aninus, from the death till the Krura, that doesn't do mitzvahs. And there's a discussion about whether or not it's if there's somebody else to deal with he's an Isaac b'mitzvah, if he has to deal with the krura, with the burial, then maybe that's why. But the Yerushalmi is mashma that the state of aninus per se, in and of itself, is ipso facto that's covered a mess. How does it cover a mess? It's not doing mitzvahs. So we've tried to understand this in the past, is that that before the mourner can enter into avelus in a state of integrity, state of honesty, a state of being not just sympathizing, but trying as much as possible to empathize, is to taste a bit of death. How does a live person taste his mortality? A live person tastes his mortality by not doing mitzvahs, by not singing the shir that he was designed, born to sing. His recitation that he has to contribute to the cosmic orchestration. There's an instrument that's missing. As the David HaMelech says that the Kochovim, the Rebbeinu Shalom, counts the stars and gives each one its name. And we've discussed this in different formats over the years. That counting that means it's a finite number. And it's not just random number. It's not accidental. It's each one has its name, which is a description of its purpose, its contribution, and what it has to bring to the table of human existence. And so when there's a departure of one neshama, there's something missing in the divine scheme of things. And we are now empathizing with that loss. Vayidom Aaron also indicates that there was a reduction, because the kochim for Deres, he was an onain, he did not. The chidush of the mincha and that which he did participate, even though he was an onain, was only limited to koche shor, not to the kochim which were then unique to that specific event and time and would not be repeated in the future. And the kochim of aninus, yes, then there was a reduction of it. The idea of shira, again, is a shir. The Maral points out is something. It's like jewelry of a woman, a bracelet or an earring that is round. The shir. Shirim are also circular kinds of jewelry and takshitim that are used for embellishing. Klal Yisrael have a collective shir to sing, and there's the orchestration of all of the contributions of each Jew in his particular, like the Oisius, the lettering come together for formulating, as has been pointed out, and we often quote, Yesh Shishim Ribui Oisius El Torah is Yisrael. There are those original neshamas that were at Har Sinai, and the connection that today's fragments of those original neshamas bring to the symphony that we're all singing. So as we feel like an orchestra, one instrument of an orchestra that was sent down to the basement to keep playing, not to lose our ear, our eye, our sense of our mission. It wasn't just rehearsal, because every mitzvah that we do is contributing, but it was muffled in a certain sense when we were quarantined to the limited situation of the basement of the great orchestra hall. The Ben Hashem has, in his chesed, given the opportunity now to emerge, and Eretz Yisrael, phenomenal kind of a siyata d'shmaya, with all of the explanations, it defies explanation, and we are here experiencing a reconnection to surfacing, to sounding our musical contribution to that shir, to that song. The Ben Hashem should give us the continuing schus, Am Yisrael, in Eretz Yisrael, Am Yisrael around the world, that there's another dimension to the musical contribution that Klal Yisrael makes, that somehow the instruments, the mitzvahs done in Eretz Yisrael impact the entire world very directly, but wherever a Jew is, and the Shechina is there, not as visible, not as audible in Chutz La'aretz, but it's there. Imo Anechi B'tzara. Ben Hashem should continue to give us the schus to be more heard, more seen, more able to reinforce each other, and to fulfill the shira, that song which we were designed, designated to fulfill. Hashem yitain that we should hear Yeshua's refuahs for all of Klal Yisrael and for the world at large. A gesunte Zuma to everybody.